versus feeding the people who probably really need it on a day-to-day basis.
Right. Okay. So, a question and a comment, really. First of all, is there a private sector case for high seas protection? I don't know if anybody would like to take that one on.
The best available information we get currently in our region from remote areas comes from the private sector. It comes from people with a commercial interest in that area, but they cooperate with government bodies, often a government science agency will be partnering with them, and their interest is in maintaining their licence to operate, convincing, that accidents can happen at sea, in oil and gas industry, for instance, as we've seen. But I've seen an increasing willingness to share publicly the information about the state of the ecosystem, the biodiversity, and that's where we're actually getting that from heavy investment of private sector funds.
Yeah.
To the question of that, Steve Gaines and Chris Costello are going to come out with a study in the next couple of months that shows that if you look at the unassessed fisheries globally, they are obviously suffering. They've created a new econometric model that lets them determine what the status is of a formerly unassessed fishery. And what they've concluded is that if you were able to restore by 30, 40, 50% those unassessed fisheries using some of the methods that people have mentioned today, there's a potential for an increased and sustainable protein source for up to between 300 and 500 million additional people. So the bad news is that the unassessed stocks are worse than most people thought. They will argue, and there's an increasing consensus around this. The good news is fisheries are known to recover, and their data shows there's a great potential for recovery. So there's still a big upside on the ocean as a source of protein. And the fact is we're going to need that, as I think others have already mentioned.
And I'd just like to add that there's an early taste of that exciting new research by Steve Gaines and Chris Costello in this week's Economist, which I do recommend.
Page 57.
Okay, on page 57. I'd like to, Rowan, you'd like a last word. Can I just perhaps raise a question that you might answer as you give us that last word? My concern, what we have here is yet another economic case for looking after the oceans better, in the broadest sense, for local people, for the future of the fishing industry, for conservation too. But we don't have many apparent sources of new finance for this work. I would ask you to speak from the position of a developing country government. All we're finding, all science is telling us, is that your waters are ever more critical, but that the ecosystem services that your coastal areas provide are ever more important, even more important than we think they are, that the destruction is going even faster than we thought it was, but it doesn't seem to me that the sources of finance that we need to protect them are readily available. Could you just speak to this and tell us whether you think the value of these ecosystem services is actually more and more a burden on a government which has plenty of bills to pay already, or whether you see it as an opportunity?
It's an opportunity, James, because if you are aware, the United Nations Convention on Biodiversity last October 2010 has approved what we call benefit sharing, and that includes marine biodiversity. And in that, I believe countries like ours must focus more on the valuation of the ecosystem services, or in fact, wealth assessment, to value it properly so that you can charge properly. So it's not just new investment, but also taxation. And somehow that would even include polluters pay.